What if the greatest threat to humanity is not war, not climate change, not even pandemics, but the technologies we are building right now? Not in decades, not in science fiction, but this decade. The coming wave is not a warning about distant futures. It is a map of what is already unfolding and why, once it starts, stopping it may be impossible. Mustafa Suleyman's central argument is brutally simple and deeply unsettling. Powerful technologies like AI and synthetic biology are becoming cheap, widespread, and uncontrollable, and society is not ready for what happens next. Every previous wave of technology was containable. This one may not be. The book explores a single, terrifying dilemma. How do we capture the benefits of world-changing technology without losing control of civilization itself? Chapter 1. Containment is not possible. The book opens with a hard truth most people do not want to hear. Throughout history, every powerful technology eventually escaped the control of its creators. Once knowledge exists, it spreads. Once tools become cheaper, they proliferate. And once incentives align, containment collapses. Suleyman argues that AI and biotechnology are fundamentally different from past technologies. They do not just scale power, they democratize it. Capabilities that once belonged only to governments and corporations are now moving into the hands of individuals, small groups, and even lone actors. The danger is not a single super-intelligent AI suddenly taking over. The danger is millions of powerful tools used imperfectly, maliciously, or recklessly. Regulation struggles to keep up. Borders mean less, enforcement weakens. And every attempt to lock these systems down collides with one unstoppable force: human curiosity and competition. The uncomfortable conclusion of this chapter is clear. Once the wave starts moving, you cannot simply put it back in the box. The problem is not evil intentions. The problem is scale, speed, and inevitability. If containment is impossible, then a darker question follows. What happens when these technologies spread endlessly faster than laws, ethics, or institutions can respond? Chapter 2. Endless proliferation. Once a technology proves useful, it does not stay rare for long. Suleyman explains that AI models, biological techniques, and advanced tools follow a predictable pattern. At first, they are expensive, centralized, and limited. Then optimization begins, costs fall, access widens, knowledge leaks, open-source alternatives appear. What was once controlled by a few labs or governments becomes available to startups, hobbyists, and eventually individuals working alone. This is not driven by malice, it is driven by incentives. Companies race to innovate because falling behind means extinction. Nations race because technological weakness becomes strategic vulnerability. Researchers share breakthroughs because collaboration accelerates progress. Each actor behaves rationally. The collective outcome becomes dangerous. Suleyman highlights how AI models can now be copied, fine-tuned, and deployed at scale with minimal resources. In biotechnology, genetic tools are becoming cheaper and more precise, lowering the barrier to experiments that once required massive infrastructure. The result is a world where power multiplies faster than responsibility. Proliferation is not a failure of control. It is the natural consequence of progress. If powerful tools are destined to spread everywhere, then the real challenge emerges. What exactly are we trying and failing to contain? Chapter 3. The containment problem. Suleyman now sharpens the dilemma. Containment is not just about stopping bad actors. It is about limiting the unintended consequences of good intentions. Traditional containment relies on clear boundaries, laws, borders, licenses, and physical controls. These methods worked when technologies were large, expensive, and slow to replicate, but AI and biotechnology break every assumption behind those systems. Software can be copied instantly, models can be leaked, biological knowledge cannot be unlearned. Once instructions exist, they can travel anywhere, independent of regulation. Even worse, these technologies are dual use by nature. The same AI system that writes code can generate malware. The same genetic technique that cures disease can engineer pathogens. Containment becomes a paradox. Tight controls slow down responsible innovators. While irresponsible actors ignore the rules entirely, the more society tries to restrict access, the more it risks creating underground ecosystems that are even harder to monitor. Containment fails not because we do nothing, but because the tools themselves resist control. If containment is breaking down at a structural level, then the next question is unavoidable. What exactly is this new form of power we are unleashing? Chapter 4. The Technology of Intelligence. Suleyman argues that artificial intelligence is not just another tool. It is a meta-technology, a system that amplifies human capability across every domain. Unlike machines that replace muscle, AI replaces and enhances cognition. It can reason, predict, create, persuade, and optimize at speeds and scales no human can match. This is what makes AI uniquely destabilizing. Once intelligence itself becomes scalable, it seeps into everything: medicine, finance, warfare, science, media, and governance. Every industry becomes an AI industry. Every decision gains an algorithmic layer. Suleyman explains that modern AI systems are no longer explicitly programmed. They are trained. This means their internal logic is often opaque even to their creators. As these systems grow more capable, understanding and controlling their behavior becomes harder, not easier. The power of AI is not just automation, it is acceleration. Ideas move faster, decisions compound quicker, mistakes propagate instantly. When intelligence scales, everything else scales with it, risk included. If intelligence is becoming cheap and abundant, then a far more dangerous question follows. What happens when the same exponential power reaches biology itself? Chapter 5. The Technology of Life. If AI reshapes intelligence, biotechnology reshapes existence itself. Suleyman explains that we are entering an era where biology becomes programmable. DNA is no longer just something we study. It is something we edit, design, and deploy. Tools like gene editing, synthetic biology, and automated laboratories are turning life into a technology stack. Experiments that once took years can now be simulated, optimized, and executed in weeks or days, often with the help of AI. The promise is extraordinary: cures for genetic diseases, personalized medicine, longer, healthier lives. But the risk is symmetrical. The same tools that can heal can also harm. Pathogens can be modified, biological systems can be repurposed, and unlike nuclear technology, biological knowledge does not require massive infrastructure. It can spread quietly, cheaply, and invisibly. Suleyman emphasizes a chilling point: biology does not respect intent. A small mistake, a flawed assumption, or a malicious actor can trigger cascading consequences that cannot be. When life becomes programmable, errors become existential. If intelligence and biology are both becoming scalable technologies, then the danger does not come from one wave but from their collision. What happens when these forces combine and spill into every domain of society? Chapter 6. The Wider Wave. Suleyman makes it clear that AI and biotechnology are only the core of something much larger. The coming wave is not a single technology. It is a stack of accelerating forces feeding into one another. Automation, robotics, drones, cyber capabilities, energy systems, surveillance tools, and advanced manufacturing are all converging. Each one amplifies the others. Progress in one domain spills into the next. What makes this wave different from past industrial revolutions is speed and interconnectedness. There is no pause between breakthroughs, no time for institutions to adapt, no gradual social adjustment. Power becomes modular. A small group with the right combination of tools can now rival institutions that once required massive resources. Control fragments, authority weakens. Suleyman argues that this convergence reshapes geopolitics, economics, and social order simultaneously. Governments struggle to govern, companies struggle to contain their own creations. Individuals gain leverage far beyond what societies were designed to absorb. The danger is not one breakthrough, It is many breakthroughs reinforcing each other at once. If this wave has identifiable patterns, then the next step is to understand its structure. What common features define the technologies that are reshaping the world? Chapter 7. 4 Features of the Coming Wave. Suleyman identifies 4 defining traits that explain why this wave is so difficult to control. First, asymmetry. Small actors can now wield outsized power. You no longer need a nation-state to cause large-scale disruption. Second, hyperscalability. Once a system works, it can be replicated instantly and deployed everywhere at near zero cost. Third, general-purpose capability. These technologies are not narrow tools. They adapt across domains, making them unpredictable and difficult to restrict to safe uses. Fourth, autonomy. Systems increasingly operate without direct human oversight, making decisions faster than humans can intervene. Together, these features form a perfect storm. They reward speed, penalize caution, and amplify mistakes. Containment becomes harder not because of incompetence, but because the rules of power have changed. When power becomes asymmetric, scalable, general, and autonomous, control becomes fragile by default. If these technologies are so dangerous, then the obvious question follows: why are we still racing forward at full speed? Chapter 8. Unstoppable Incentives. Suleyman argues that the coming wave is not driven by recklessness. It is driven by incentives that are too powerful to resist. Economic pressure pushes companies to innovate or die. National security pressure pushes governments to invest aggressively, fearing that rivals will gain irreversible advantages. Scientists are motivated by discovery, recognition, and impact. Even ethical actors are trapped. If one lab slows down, another speeds up. If one country pauses, another accelerates. If one company hesitates, another captures the market. This creates a global arms race where caution feels like surrender. Suleyman stresses that incentives do not require bad intentions to produce dangerous outcomes. Rational decisions made in isolation can create catastrophic results when combined at scale. The future is being shaped less by choice and more by competitive pressure. If incentives make the wave unstoppable, then survival depends on a new kind of agreement. What kind of bargain could possibly balance innovation with safety? Chapter 9. The Grand Bargain. Suleyman introduces the concept of a global agreement to manage emerging technologies responsibly. A grand bargain. The bargain is simple in theory. Allow innovation to flourish, prevent catastrophic misuse, share knowledge responsibly, align incentives globally. In practice, it is almost impossible. Different nations, corporations, and actors have conflicting interests, timelines, and priorities. Enforcement is fragmented, transparency is limited, mistakes propagate faster than oversight. Despite these challenges, Suleyman stresses that some form of collective framework is necessary. Without it, the wave will shape society before society can shape it. The grand bargain is not about control, it's about coordination. The goal is not zero risk, but reducing systemic fragility while maintaining progress. A global solution is possible only if actors trust, communicate, and act in alignment, even when doing so is against short-term self-interest. If alignment is essential but nearly impossible, then what magnifies the consequences when things go wrong? Chapter 10. Fragility Amplifiers. Suleyman identifies the systems and structures that make society extremely sensitive to shocks. Technologies like AI, gene editing, and automation are hyper-interconnected. A single error in one domain can cascade across industries, nations, and ecosystems. Examples: a flawed AI system mismanaging critical infrastructure, a bioengineered organism accidentally released, automated supply chains failing due to a minor disruption. These are not isolated risks, they amplify one another. A small mistake becomes a global problem. Suleyman warns that the coming wave will punish rigidity and reward resilience. Systems built for efficiency over robustness are inherently fragile. Traditional safety nets, regulations, and institutions are too slow and brittle to cope with this speed and scale. The real danger is not a deliberate attack. It is the unintended consequences of ordinary actions amplified by technology. Fragility is built into the system. The more advanced and interconnected it becomes, the less forgiving it is of error, if fragility is baked in. Then the next chapter asks, how will nations adapt or fail when the wave hits? Chapter 11, The Future of Nations. Suleyman explores the geopolitical dimension of the coming wave. Nations are no longer defined solely by borders, armies, or resources. They are defined by their ability to manage, deploy, and contain emerging technologies. Key points. Small, agile nations can punch above their weight if they adopt and regulate technologies effectively. Large, bureaucratic nations risk falling behind, trapped by slow decision-making. The balance of global power will shift from traditional dominance, military, economic, to technological foresight and governance capability. However, incentives remain misaligned. Nations compete to innovate, yet few collaborate to contain shared risks. This paradox creates global tension. The faster one country moves, the more the world collectively risks instability. Suleyman stresses that international coordination is critical, yet incredibly difficult. The coming wave doesn't respect borders, treaties, or politics in the traditional sense. It moves faster than institutions can adapt. The next century's power is not just about money or military. It is about control over high-impact technology and the wisdom to use it responsibly. If nations are struggling to adapt, then the ultimate dilemma becomes personal and societal. How do individuals, companies, and governments navigate an unstoppable wave they cannot fully control? Chapter 12, The Dilemma. Suleyman frames the dilemma as simple but terrifying. We cannot stop progress, yet we cannot fully control it. Every breakthrough offers enormous benefits, cures, efficiency, prosperity, but also unprecedented risks. Attempts to slow it down hurt innovation and competitiveness, while attempts to accelerate it increase fragility and potential catastrophe. Key elements of the dilemma: speed vs safety. Acting fast gives advantage but magnifies mistakes. Openness vs security. Sharing knowledge accelerates innovation but spreads risk. Autonomy vs control. Letting systems operate independently unlocks power but reduces oversight. Suleyman emphasizes that no single solution exists. The coming wave demands continuous negotiation, iteration, and vigilance. It is a test of judgment, ethics, and global cooperation. The dilemma is unavoidable. The same technologies that can save humanity can also destroy it. If the dilemma is real and unavoidable, then the final chapters ask, can containment, coordination, and careful governance offer a path forward? Chapter 13, Containment must be possible. Suleyman argues that giving up on containment is not an option. While the coming wave cannot be fully controlled, certain structures, rules, and norms can reduce catastrophic risk. The challenge is to design systems that channel innovation without crushing it. Key strategies highlighted: layered containment, multiple independent safeguards to prevent single points of failure, transparency and monitoring, making high-risk experiments visible to trusted authorities without stifling creativity. Ethical guardrails, embedding responsibility into design rather than relying solely on external enforcement. Global coordination, agreements that align incentives across countries, corporations, and researchers. Suleyman emphasizes that containment is a continuous process, not a one-time solution. The goal is to make high-impact failures much harder, not impossible. Chapter 14, 10 Steps Toward Containment. Suleyman outlines a roadmap for reducing the risks of the coming wave while preserving its benefits. The steps include early identification of high-risk technologies, know what could cause systemic harm, redundant safety mechanisms, build multiple overlapping safeguards, global monitoring and cooperation, share data, enforce norms, and align incentives across borders. Ethical frameworks embedded in design create systems that self-regulate where possible. Controlled dissemination, manage how knowledge spreads without blocking innovation entirely. Public engagement and awareness, society must understand the stakes and support responsible governance. Scenario planning and simulations, stress test systems against worst-case outcomes. Adaptive regulation laws and policies must evolve as fast as technologies do. Resource allocation for safety research prioritize protective measures alongside innovation. Leadership commitment, top-level actors must make safety non-negotiable. Suleyman stresses that no single actor can implement these steps alone. It requires cooperation across nations, corporations, and communities, and a recognition that humanity's survival depends on acting wisely, not just quickly. Containment is not a technical problem alone, it is a social, ethical, and organizational challenge that demands global collaboration. With all these insights, the final reflection becomes clear. The coming wave is unstoppable, but humanity can survive and even thrive if we choose to act responsibly now. Final thoughts: the message of the coming wave is both terrifying and hopeful. We are standing at the edge of a technological tsunami. AI, biotechnology, and other powerful systems are spreading faster than institutions, laws, and ethics can keep pace. The wave is unstoppable. Containment is difficult. Mistakes can be catastrophic. But Suleyman is not hopeless. Humanity has the tools, the knowledge, and the capability to navigate this era. We can design resilient systems, coordinate globally, embed ethics into our technologies, and make informed choices that prevent disaster. The coming wave is not a prophecy of doom, it is a call to action. If you are a leader, innovator, or simply someone who cares about the future of our civilization, this is the wake-up call. The decisions we make today will determine whether this wave destroys us or propels us into a new era of unprecedented possibility. Comment below, which emerging technology do you think is the most dangerous right now and why? Like and share this video if you want more book summaries that prepare you for the future. Subscribe and hit the bell to never miss insights that could change the way you think, act, and survive in the 21st century. The wave is coming. Are you ready?